Welcome to Inkit Fitness. For those who are new to my channel, my name is Anthony. I'm someone who went from skinny to fit, and these videos are purely educational. So this way, if you are also someone who is on the skinny side, who's a gym beginner, or who maybe is 1 to 2 years inside their lifting journey and want to continue educating themselves on how to maximize muscle growth, then you've come to the right place. So that way you can take what you're learning inside of these videos, apply them, be consistent with them, and get your own results. In terms of today's video topic, I'm going to be showing you guys how to stop overcomplicating fitness by just showing you the three main things you need to focus on, because those three main things that I'm going to mention with you guys here today are the only driving forces that will drive results as far as your physique goes. So let's get right into things for today, where we're going to be talking about fitness being much more simpler than it is, right? It seems to be, or what people make it out to be, because we see a lot of overcomplicated bullshit online that makes beginners feel super confused as to what's realistic as a natural lifter, and essentially super confused on how to train for efficient gains, that sort of stuff, right? And there's also fake natties out there that just spew pure dog water that confuses beginners even more, which in turn sets up really bad, or what would be much better said, false expectations for those beginners in terms of what they can achieve, what they can expect in general, and really what it takes to make really good progress inside of the gym. So, because of these different contributing factors, it has led to fitness being complicated, quote unquote. When in reality, it's not as complicated as what these people make it out to be. You don't have to do 4 or 5 sets. You don't have to do these evolving rep ranges. You don't have to do whatchamacallit, deload weeks for weeks on end. You don't have to do, I mean, the deload weeks are important, don't get me wrong, but there's a time and a place for them, but you don't have to do them frequently, right? As some people might say. You don't have to do, you don't have to eat liver, right, to get the most optimal physique, or whatever you want to call the most beautiful physique, the most amazing physique, whatever, right? You get the point that I'm trying to say here. You don't have to do these ridiculous items that a lot of fitness influencers out there nowadays are telling you to do to get X, Y, and Z physique or to look a certain way. What you really need to be doing, or what you really want to be talking or focusing on, excuse me, is your training, your nutrition, and your recovery, because that is it. Those are the only three main areas of fitness that will drive results. You don't need to eat liver. You don't need to do ice baths in the morning. You don't need to do red light therapy. You don't need to, um, you don't need to, I don't even know, but you don't need to do some sort of fill in whatever you want to fill in from whatever you heard from set fitness influencer for you to say. Um, so just focus on those three areas of fitness: training, nutrition, recovery, and that's it. You'll get to see the results that you want to see, so long as you're being consistent, you're being patient, and you have all three of those areas dialed in. Because you will find is if you only have one out of the three areas, or two out of the three areas of fitness dialed in, you will only see minimal results opposed to the maximum results that you guys want to see, right? Maximizing those results that you guys want to see inside the gym. You have to have all three pillars, or all three areas of fitness dialed in. You just can't half-pass two or one of them, one of those areas out of the three, because if you do that, you're not going to see the best results. You're not going to see the results that you want to be seeing from putting in so much work and effort into your daily gym progress, right? And it's not something that's gonna, leave you without a job because you're having to spend so much time in the gym. Yeah, you're having to spend so much time cooking your meals. You're having to spend so much time eating those meals, and then you have to get sleep at the end of the things, right? At the end of the day. No, nothing like that. If anything, fitness is so simple that you can fit it inside your lifestyle. It does not have to be your entire life. You can fit it inside your lifestyle. And I understand those fitness influencers that work out every day and whatnot. That's what they do for a living. That's what they do for a job, right? And some of them are fake natties. Some of them are lying about their gear use, which allows for them to actually work out a shitload because their bodies can recover a lot more efficiently, or a lot more quicker than us natural lifters, because we actually need rest. We actually need to be careful about overtraining. We actually need to be careful about the amount of volume we do on a week to week basis in our training sessions. Otherwise, we're fucked. right? And that leads to us feeling burnt out mentally, physically. We need to do velo weeks. We need to do all these different kind of things in order to get our physicality and our mindset right back on track. So make sure to focus on these three areas. That's it. Don't focus on anything else. If anyone else is telling you you need to do some sort of outrageous thing to see really great results, like buying supplements or eating liver every day, I mean, liver has great nutrients in it, but to say you need to eat it every day to get the physique that you want is just a load of bullshit that you don't need. And it's very, very big false bullshit. False. False, false, false. Get that inside your heads. So let's cover each individual area of fitness or each pillar. Let me just quickly go down the list and then I'll explain each list or each item, bullet point, whatever you want to call it, a little bit more in depth so that way you guys have some good notes to take from or to take on. Now, as far as the training area goes, you want to train till failure or close to failure. You want to do 2 sets on every exercise instead of 4 sets. You want to do rep ranges of 6 to 8 instead of 10 to 12. You want to implement 3 to 5 minute rest times. You want to incorporate progressive overload, and you want to train each muscle group 2 to 3 times per week. And if I were to add one more bullet point here that I did not add on here because silly me, I just forgot. And that would be to do the 3-1 explode count or 3-3-1 explode counting scheme. And that is a nice little count scheme for you to have inside of your head as you're performing each rep because form really does matter when it comes to maximizing gains. And I will explain a little bit more about that counting scheme, what it is exactly in a few seconds here. But to start right off the top of the list, when it comes to training till failure or close to failure, um, I mean this is kind of pretty self-explanatory, right? You want to train until you cannot do one full rep anymore. So for those who don't know what training till failure or close to failure is, it is when you cannot perform one full rep anymore, or really when you are training close to failure, it is when you leave one rep in reserve. So if some of you guys hear about RIR, that means reps in reserve, which means the reps that you have in your tank until you reach failure. And so typically, for those that are looking to reach close to failure, they usually leave 1 to 2 reps left in reserve. Um, Typically 1 rep in reserve. So to kind of bring that back full circle, just because I know I just spewed a lot of things right there for those that couldn't keep up. Even myself, sometimes I can't even keep up with what I'm saying. But for those that are training till failure, that's when you essentially go until you cannot perform one full rep anymore. If you're training close to failure, that is when you leave 1 rep in reserve. Now, as far as doing 2 sets on every exercise, you might be thinking, Anthony, I thought more is better in fitness. I thought doing 4 or 5 sets of every exercise is ideal for hypertrophy, ideal for muscle growth. And no, it is not. It could not be farther from the truth. Again, most people who do 4 to 5 sets on every exercise, some of them, not all of them, of course, some of them are on some sort of performance enhancing drugs, right? Their bodies are can recover a lot quicker than we can. So that means they can take on a lot of sets on a week to week basis and they can recover from that pretty easily and efficiently. Well, we need to focus on the quality of our reps. We need to focus on making each rep count with minimal sets as possible, right? So 2 sets is a sweet spot. 1 to 2 sets is honestly the sweet spot for any beginner and intermediate lifter. Expert lifters, those lifters who are natural that are experts, they can definitely get away with doing 3 to 4 sets. They likely are more so on the 3 set side of thing, just because their bodies are just so used to training in the way that they've been training that they can add a little bit more volume and they won't see that much fatigue. And even if they do, their bodies can recover from that somewhat quickly, right? Because again, they've been training for years on end. Their bodies are used to the type of stimulus that's been given it, so the type of beating that they've been given it for the past few years. So it's only justifiable for them to be able to add on an extra set, maybe one more, or maybe 2 more sets, but typically one extra set, so 3 sets total, to what they're doing, right? So if they've been doing 2 sets, 1 to 2 sets for years on end, maybe they're going to try to do 3 sets, and that's going to contribute to more muscle growth for them, right? But obviously, everyone's body is different, and it responds differently to different styles of training. But typically, what I've seen work best for myself and what I've seen work best for others as well is doing 2 sets on every exercise and training till failure or close to failure on both of those sets on every exercise. And it's really good for you to train in this way because you will not only be efficient inside of your time in the gym, because you will find when you train in this way, you're in and out of the gym within an hour, but you will also find that you're making every rep count. You're being super intentional about your training, and you get a fucking wicked pump that you've never gotten before in your life, which is gonna make the pictures you take amazing, right? Amazing. A1 steak sauce. It's gonna be so good. Chef's kiss, right? Whatever you want to call it. So definitely a lot of positives, or a lot of pros for from just dropping the sets from 4 sets to 2 sets, and training till failure or close to failure by training in that way for both of those sets. So you also want to do rep ranges of 6 to 8 reps, and 6 to 8 reps is really the sweet spot when you will reach failure if you pick a moderately heavy weight. So you don't want to pick a weight that's light enough for you to do 15 reps on, but you also don't want to pick a weight that's heavy enough where you can't even get it up for 3 reps straight or 4 reps straight or 5 reps straight, right? And even if you do get it up, sounds really weird when I say get it up, raise the weight, whatever you want to call it, right? Um, Even if you do get the weight up, you don't want to use your body or utilize other muscle groups apart from the muscle group that you're trying to work out within that given exercise. So pick a moderately heavy weight where you can control the form, and if you can control the form with that moderately heavy weight, then you will reach failure or close to failure within that 6 to 8 rep range. Now, as far as implementing 3 to 5 minute rest times, you might be saying, man, that's a long ass rest time, right? I'm typically used to resting for 60 to 90 seconds. And yeah, that's something that I thought too back then, but you'll find is that when you train in this way, when you train close to failure or till failure, you will find that you will need the rest, right? You'll find that you will need the full 3 to 5 minutes of rest time. So that way you can carry the same intensity that you did for the first set onto the second set. Because if you're just taking 60 to 90-second rest times, if you're going at it again, I guarantee you're not pushing yourself, you're not exerting yourself, you're not breaking a sweat, you're half-assing shit, and your only main mission is to get in and out of the gym, and that's it, right? Nothing else. Moving forward, the next point is incorporating progressive overload. Now, progressive overload, for those of you who don't know what it is, there are 3 different ways to progressively overload. The first is by increasing the sets, the second is by increasing the reps, or the third is by increasing the weight. Typically, though, what you see is people increasing the weight gradually by either 2.5 to 5 pounds. So that way they can get stronger, grow bigger, of course, that sort of stuff. For if you guys need an example of what progressive overload will look like when it comes to being implemented, take for example a bicep curl. You do it for 2 sets for 6 to 8 reps, but you reach the top of the rep range for both sets. So the top of the rep range in this case would be 8 reps, given here, and you do that for both sets successfully with perfect form for the weight that you're doing, right? So let's say the weight that you're doing, for example, is 25 pounds on bicep curls. So that would mean the following week you increase the weight by 2.5 to 5 pounds. And given since you normally do bicep curls with dumbbells, you're obviously going to increase the weight by 5 pounds since most dumbbells go or increase by 5 pound increments. You're going to do 30 pounds then for bicep curls for the same amount of sets and same amount of reps, right? 2 sets by 6 to 8 reps, and you're not going to increase the weight again, not until you hit the top rep range being 8 for both sets with perfect form and perfect technique. So that's a rough example of what progressive overload is. If there's any further questions about that, though, just feel free to leave it down below in the comment section. I'll be, I'll happily answer that for you guys. And then the last point is just to make sure you train each muscle group 2 to 3 times per week. High frequency training in terms of, hitting each muscle group 2 to 3 times per week is really good. It's really great for hypertrophy. You're hitting the muscles more, which allows for more growth. Obviously, you don't want to do it overboard, right? Where you're training each muscle group 4, 5, 6 times per week, because that's a little bit overkill. 2 to 3 times per week is a sweet spot, where it's really hypertrophy focused or hypertrophy driven, excuse me, and you're not going to see any sort of overtraining or fatigue within your training sessions or anything like that, or even mindset fatigue as well. Um, so yeah, so it's really good to have a really good high frequency training as far as hitting each muscle group goes. So that covers the training portion side of things. Let's move on. Let's move on to the nutrition side of things. Did not mean to pause the video right there. So covering the nutrition side of things, the eating part of things, whether you're bulking or cutting, you will either need to add or subtract 300 to 500 calories from your maintenance calories. Now, of course, if you're bulking, you'll have to add that amount. If you're cutting, you'll have to subtract that amount from your maintenance. One point that I will mention is that you will find that throughout your bulking and cutting phases, and just to tell you guys this right now, a really good bulking or cutting phase will last anywhere between, on average, 3 months to 4 months. Sometimes you'll need a little bit more time depending on how much weight you have to lose or how much weight that you want to gain. But typically, on average, 3 to 4 months is what you see on average as a good sweet spot for a bulking or cutting phase. But all that to say is that you will be plateauing many times throughout those 3 to 4 months, whether you're bulking or cutting. And whenever you do reach those plateaus, that means you either need to add or subtract an additional 300 to 500 calories. So just a little FYI for you guys. Now, secondly, you need to prioritize hitting your daily protein goal because protein is everything. You're not going to grow unless you eat your protein. At least you meet your daily protein goals. It's just, if you're training hard, if you have your rest and recovery on point, and if you're meeting your calories, but you're not meeting your protein goals, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there. Because you need that amino acid. It's very essential for repairing your muscles to not only maintain the current muscle that you have, but to also grow, right? You need to grow. And so in order to grow, the body needs that essential amino acid so that way it can do what it's meant to do, so that way it can get you the results that you want to see yourself as far as muscle growth, that sort of stuff. And it's also very satiating. Protein is very satiating. So if you're on a cut, you're gonna need a good amount of protein, so that way you don't go stir crazy and feel like you're starving all the time. So that covers hitting your daily protein goal. Not mandatory. This third bullet point is not mandatory whatsoever, especially if you're not competing or anything like that. But if you are competing or if you're super tedious in general about your weight or about you making progress, then I would recommend just tracking your weight once per week. So that way you visually see the number on the scale if it's going up or down, and so that way you can, or staying the same, so that way you can adjust what you need to adjust as far as your eating goes. Fourth bullet point, track your eating. Just use the app called MyFitnessPal. I love that app. Very simple to use, but it's a good way to track your calories, track your macros, so that way you know how much you're putting inside of your body, and to know, if you're on pace or if you're on track to, hit your daily calorie goals and your protein goals as well. Now, fifth bullet point is that you do not have to cut out your favorite foods just because you're cutting or bulking. It's just about making it work, right? It's about finding the healthier versions of those foods or just eating those foods in general, but just making sure you're not going over your calories an insane amount, or just not going over your calories in general, because you also don't want to make that a habit, right? Because if you go over your calorie goals once, that's perfectly fine. It's not going to damage you in the long run. Twice, okay, that's not bad either. It's not going to hurt you. Three, four times, five times, then yeah, that's going to harm you, right? One or two times is okay, but anything more than that is just gonna set you back, right? It's gonna set you back, and you're gonna lose the momentum you've been building up, which is the biggest thing, right? You don't want to lose that momentum. You want to keep that momentum going because that momentum is what's gonna keep you going, especially when you have to hit through those obstacles, and especially when you come upon those challenges when it comes to your fitness journey. And the final point is just to eat your fruits and veggies. This is kind of like a no-brainer. You want to make sure you're not neglecting eating your micronutrients. You need those micronutrients as well. It's what's going to keep you essentially being a healthy human being, right? You need vitamin C. You don't want to get scurvy or anything like that. Not saying you will get scurvy, but um, that's just to say that you should just not ignore not getting in your micronutrients. You want to get all your fruits and veggies in, especially your veggies. You need the fiber, right? Imagine if you can't shit, especially if you're bulking and you can't shit and you're bloated. Hell no. Don't sign me up for that because that's I that's terrible. That's horrible. Imagine that. You're eating a bunch of food, you can't even go to the bathroom properly, and you have to eat more food afterwards. That's not fun. So don't let that happen to yourself. Get your veggies in, get your fruits in, and you'll thank yourself down the road for that. And then last but not least, we have recovery. This one's just very simple. Just get 7 hours or more worth of sleep per night. Sleep is super important. That's where your body recovers itself. That's where your body recharges its own battery so that way you can carry the same intensity that you performed on today's training session for tomorrow. So overall, really important stuff that you need, or sleep is just a very important thing that you need so that way you can be a functioning human being. And that covers it for today's video, though, guys. A little bit of a lengthy one, but of course, with anything lengthy in terms of video content, it's going to be really valuable, really good. So I hope you guys took some good notes. You jotted everything down, and if there's any questions, just leave it down in the comment section below. If there's someone that's interested in one-to-one coaching, the link for that will be down below in the description, so feel free to check that out. But until the next one, though, guys, take care. Much love to you all, and peace.